As spiritual beings, we wield immense power. This video will give you the tools to own and channel your higher power. To understand and manage our power, it's important to recognize that we are portions of the source energy. Just as a drop is a part of the ocean, we are individualized parts of the source, the creative intelligence of the universe. According to quantum mechanics, everything in the universe is connected. Every cell in our body is connected to the farthest star in the galaxy. Due to this connection, our thoughts and actions reconfigure the universe. If we live in harmony with joy, we bring harmony and joy to the universe. Conversely, in disharmony, we contribute disharmony to the universe. If sufficient numbers of people have the same disharmonic vibration, they negatively impact the entire planet. Each of us is uniquely working with power. In the philosophy of yoga, there are three broad patterns of relating to our power. The first pattern is powerlessness. The Sanskrit word for it is tamas, which means darkness. In this pattern, we do not perceive the power within us, and so cannot use it to uplift ourselves or others. Second, physical or external power. This is called rajas, which means royalty. What do kings want? To accumulate power and rule. In this pattern, we seek power through external and material things, like money, fame, or control over others. The third is spiritual or internal power. This is called sattva, which means truth. Sattva is a pattern where our intent and will are purified, so we become instruments of upliftment and blessing. We may manifest different levels of power in different areas of our life. All of us might experience some areas in which we feel powerless, some where we seek power over others, and others in which we live in harmony. Let's take a look at each pattern in more depth. Powerlessness is the pattern most familiar to us because we take birth into it. A human baby depends on others for everything, including food, shelter, and protection. Parents and society hold all the power when we begin the human journey. As we grow into adulthood, we must progress past this pattern of powerlessness. Going beyond powerlessness is the first marker of spiritual growth. There are 4 primary archetypes of powerlessness, according to Carolyn Mays, a spiritual teacher. Because an archetype is an unconscious pattern that is part of the mass psyche, all of us work with these archetypes regardless of our culture. It is important to see these archetypes not as human limitations, but as steps to spiritual growth. By working with each archetype, we cultivate spiritual qualities. The first archetype is child, which represents innocence, dependence, and lack of mature thinking. The spiritual quality we work on within the child archetype is independence. We see this archetype in play in people who are adults, but still ask for permission from those around them, parents, religious institutions, and marketing. If we don't have independence and sound judgment, we will only follow the crowd, never stand out, and live an unfulfilled life. The second archetype is victim. Victim never takes responsibility and blames others for their problems. You see this when people sue McDonald's for the hot coffee they spilled on themselves. In a political system, victimhood can be a powerful tool for a demagogue to arouse anger and passion by telling people that a political target has caused all of their problems. The third archetype is prostitute. It's not about selling your body for money, but dishonoring yourself for security or the need to fit in. We act as a prostitute when we should say no, but instead say yes to please others. The prime example of this is when we stay in abusive relationships because of need for security. We let others violate our sense of self because we are too afraid to stand up. The spiritual quality we work on here is self-respect. When we build self-respect, we are not for sale. We stand firm for our own truth regardless of outside pressure or threats. The fourth archetype is that of saboteur. This pattern comes from fear and low self-esteem, resulting in choices that block empowerment and success. When people don't believe in themselves and are afraid of success, they do stupid things. They don't show up when needed, and they aren't there for people who love them, creating a vicious cycle of disempowerment, regret, and low expectations. To summarize, powerlessness is characterized by a lack of honor for oneself. As a result, life becomes dominated by unhealthy patterns such as addictions, dependency, and destructive emotions. In powerlessness, our inner light that can guide others never becomes available due to deep insecurity. Let's look in more detail at the second power pattern, physical or external power. This pattern is the path of seeking power by external means and occurs when we endlessly pursue money, accolades, material things, or fans on social media. The pursuit provides a temporary feeling of conquest because we increase our status at the expense of others. Ultimately, this is a pattern of misuse of power because of the constant need to win by defeating others. Because we don't see the source in others, we violate them for our petty victories. In relationships, people with this power pattern seek dominion over others. Due to the need to win at all costs, relationships become power struggles, leading inevitably to conflict. At the global level, this pattern results into wars and destruction. The third power pattern is spiritual or internal power. This is the great evolutionary step in our growth because we start focusing our energy on spiritual rather than material goals. This pattern honors the source by honoring the self and others. In this stage, the will becomes purified because it no longer seeks temporary and pointless things. Life becomes an expression of active love. In yoga, this is called the path of karma yoga, which means selfless action. It's always easy to express love in passive ways. You can sit in an isolated monastery and imagine that you are loving the universe. It's effortless when there's nobody else present, when you don't have resistance, and you don't have problems of normal life. Karma yoga is about active love. It's more difficult when you're living in the real world, where loving the universe requires much more wisdom, understanding, and strength. When we study those who have taken humanity forward, we observe an indomitable spiritual strength in the face of opposition and temptation. Take the example of Gandhi. Compared to other statesmen, Gandhi did not possess great oratory or writing skills. Even after he became active in political life, he did not hold any titles nor personal property. When he died, his net worth was less than $9. The contrast between his external power and internal power is stark. In the historical context, his country was ruled and exploited by a foreign power. His people were largely uneducated, weak, and exhausted by oppression. What could he do? There were two easy choices. The first was to do nothing and tolerate. That would be the way of a coward. The second was to meet force with force as a revolutionary. But force inevitably brings more force, hostility, and suffering. The genius of Gandhi is that he was able to choose a third way, the path of nonviolent resistance. On this path, there are no enemies to be eliminated, only people driven by mistaken beliefs. This is a profoundly simple idea, and he was able to lead hundreds of millions of people successfully to freedom. His ideas were duplicated by other statesmen such as Martin Luther King Jr. Here is how you can manage your power. The first step is to prevent leakage of power. In the human form, we are a channel of source energy, which supports the physical journey by nourishing our well-being and spiritual evolution. In the case of leakage, this energy is dissipated and is no longer available. The most common causes of this leakage are unresolved issues from our past, lack of forgiveness around those issues, and emotions such as deep-rooted anger and guilt. Another common cause is internal states such as worry, lack of trust, and fear. When the leakage of power happens over a long period, it can cause tissue damage. To close these leaks, make a conscious effort to resolve the issues from your past. If you have people who you have not forgiven, forgive them. Sit in meditation, tell the universe that you forgive others and yourself for any transgressions, and release everyone. From a higher perspective, true forgiveness arises when you realize that there is nothing to forgive. Next, cultivate awareness of your thoughts, choices, and underlying causes. When we shine the light of consciousness on deeply embedded patterns, they lose their power over us. As a tool, Children of Infinity has created a 7-minute guided meditation for forgiveness and healing. This meditation has been specially prepared with higher energies to work at a deeper level and accelerate your journey to light. Here is how you can manifest spiritual power. The 3 keys are knowledge, intent, and will. Knowledge provides the recognition of our higher power, intent shapes its direction and focus, and will determines its intensity. The highest knowledge is a simple recognition that each one of us is a creative aspect of the source energy. Our core essence is the primal, creative force of the universe that has created stars and galaxies and life. This knowledge is transformative because it helps us realize our tremendous power over our destiny and the destiny of the collective. This perspective is known as non-duality, and you can watch videos on our website for a deeper understanding of non-duality. The second key to manifesting higher power is working with higher intent. There is a leap in consciousness that happens when we evolve past egocentrism. Before this leap, consciousness runs on the primitive programs of seeking survival and security. After the leap, it begins to work with higher intent by asking, "How can I serve others?" If you are willing, you can find at least one way to honor the creation through service. Maybe you like to work with animals, or with underprivileged people, or maybe you like to teach. Find one way that works for you. Through service, align with your highest purpose for being on this planet. True service is impossible without adequate wisdom. When we lack wisdom, we are like monkeys. The more advanced technology we have in our hands, the more destruction we will cause. That's why cultivating wisdom is so important. Growth and service go together, and each depends on the other. You cannot grow if you're not serving, and you cannot serve unless you're growing. Commit to developing your power through inner growth and sharing it through service. Make these your missions in this incarnation. The third key to spiritual power is developing higher will. As portions of source energy, we possess will that can change the world. To strengthen the will, honor the commitments you make to yourself. Part of this is not to make commitments you don't intend to honor. Don't say yes just to please others. Don't go with the crowd. Don't make New Year's resolutions just because everybody's making them, and you are expected to make them too. Don't follow political or other agendas just because everyone else is. Learn to stand alone for your own truth. Lastly, seek challenges rather than run away from them. It's a painful reality, but a human lifetime is short. The point is not how comfortably we live, but how much we grow through the priceless opportunity of this incarnation. The only way we can grow is by taking on worthwhile challenges. Here is an exercise to help you align with higher power. Write down the answers to the following 2 questions. 1. How can you restructure your life to make growth and service your highest priorities? Think of small changes, such as reading a book in the morning instead of reading news, as well as big changes, such as finding more meaningful work. 2. What immediate action steps can you take to make progress toward this goal?